After my personal struggle with food left me sick and suicidal, I was struck with the realization that food alone can't fix us. So I set out to discover what could, and what I found changed everything. After coaching thousands of clients and interviewing the world's leading experts, I realized it was time to start a bigger conversation. What are you really hungry for?
It's great.
Ooh, good one.
What am I really hungry for?
I love that question.
It's time to discover what you're really hungry for. Imagine being on the edge of losing everything that you've ever cared about or worked so hard to create. This is a very scary thought. And when you're on that edge, you've walked straight up to a bottomless pit and all you see in front of you, behind you, and all around you is total darkness. How do you hold on? How do you come through all of that and still succeed? The short answer is you don't give up. And I know about not giving up. I was once very close to giving up on me. I was close to taking my own life at one time. But I found strength in somewhere that I didn't expect to find it. I found strength inside of myself. I also learned to let go and to trust in something bigger than me. When you're falling in life, it's important that we let the universe, God, Buddha, Source, or whatever greater power you believe in catch you. When things are happening that you have zero control over, you have to let go of trying to control things and trust the process. Because trying to control things is like trying to hold on to a handful of water. Imagine, if you will, picking up a handful of water and trying to hold it in your fist. You just can't do it. The water drips through your fingers. This water's like life. You can't hold on and control the way things happen in your life. They'll always slip right through your fingers. So you accept the fact that you can't control it, and you trust that things will turn out just as they're supposed to. Now, that doesn't mean that we just sit back and don't do anything. In fact, it's just the opposite. But instead of just doing everything that you can think of, it's important that you trust that inner knowing that you have, that gut feeling, if you will, to know what decisions to make. And have faith. Have faith in the process. Have faith in our ability to handle anything that life throws at you, to get through the hardship, to persevere despite the tragedy. In 2012, I was talking to a dear friend of mine named JJ Verge. Just days prior to our call, JJ's son Grant was hit by a car going 40 miles an hour and left in the street for dead. When JJ arrived at the hospital, they told her that the odds were slim that Grant would live through the night. They told her to not fight for his life, to just let him go. Now, as a mother, I cannot imagine ever having to hear this news. But there was more. The book that JJ had authored, called The Virgin Diet, was supposed to launch in just a few days, and the publisher couldn't stop it. JJ had invested everything she had into this book launch, and if the book didn't do well, she stood to lose everything that she had worked so hard to build. I remember feeling completely heartbroken for JJ and saying to her, "I don't know how you're doing this because I couldn't." And JJ said to me, "Yeah, you could." And again, I said, "No, you don't understand. There's no way that I could do what you're doing." And what she said to me, I'll never forget. She said, "If it were your kid and your business and everything you had in this world, you would do anything you had to. You wouldn't even think about it. You would just do it." And she was right. At the end of the day, when you've gone through tragedy, you need to realize that you too can handle it. In fact, you can handle far more than you think you can, and you can do far more than you think you can do. Today, JJ Verge is here to share her story and the tools that she used to find the strength to not only keep going, but succeed wildly, even though she was on the verge of losing it all. So, JJ, first of all, how is Grant?
Grant is doing amazing. So here's the thing that I'm so impressed with about him, is he has never once said, "Why me?" He has never once been the victim, because I always say there are no victims, only volunteers. he doesn't have the memory he used to have. His short-term memory suffered of all of the physical stuff, 13 fractures, torn aorta, multiple brain bleeds. The thing that has lasted is some hearing loss. When you look at all of it, you go, I'll take that. Right?
Yes, please.
But one door closes, another one opens. He's super creative now. He's doing amazing art. And he never, that was never his thing before. So these things all create opportunities. People talk about how bad the economy is. I go, but someone's making money somewhere. What's the opportunity?
Yeah.
So he's not able to do certain things. He's able to do other things way better.
That's amazing. And the book, how did the book do? Because, again, you were launching the book when all of this happened.
I still remember, the whole thing happened and my agent called and she said, the publishers are freaking out. Can you imagine? Because what can you say? And I go, the people who knew me well knew that all this was going to do was make the book so much bigger.
Yeah.
Because you're never better than when you're challenged. And I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. It had to go big. So 26 weeks on the list. We've had over 1 million people on the Verge diet. I mean, to me, the really cool thing is I get emails and Facebook posts every day about what's happened because of this with other people.
It's amazing. And that wasn't your only New York Times bestseller since this happened. You have 3 more.
I do.
Congratulations.
How cool is that? And what's even more exciting now is, really looking, I think what happens is we start to look at what's the impact we want to have in the world. And Grant is such an opportunity to make such a massive difference in people's lives because he's literally walking hope. I mean, this is someone who was supposed to die.
Were there any times or any time at all during this whole process that you just struggled and you thought maybe you couldn't get through it? Did that ever happen to you?
Standing there in the ICU looking at him with he had the tube out of his head with his managing the pressure in his brain, and he had the ventilator, and he had all these things beeping. I mean, the alarms were going off all the time. I'm like, how do you know what's what's what? It's like always alarming. You're standing there looking at all this, and I thought, I'm going to need some help. It was like, I need some help. So I sent an email out to everybody, and then I put it on Facebook, and I was like, I said, hey, I don't want your sympathy. I don't want your pity. I need your strength. I need whatever ideas you have here, send them on out. And people just started showing up.
Wow.
Amazing. They drive for hours and they just show up, and bring baskets from Whole Foods. The hospital's like, who is this person? Like, why do you have so much kale? It's finally like, enough kale. Don't bring me any more kale. I don't really like it that much in the first place. And so you got to have a lifeline. Just like I needed to be his in the hospital. Had I not been there, he would not be here, and that's very clear. But we all need lifelines too. And so a big lesson there is to just ask for help. People actually really want to give it to you.
It is hard though, and I think for women especially, it's hard because you're supposed to be the helper. You're supposed to be the nurturer, the giver, the doer, the taker care of her, right?
Tempted to say I'm done.
It's like
I'll be a barista.
Yes, absolutely. There have been times where I have said, I can't do this anymore. And I think of you. And I even said this to you. We were at an event one time and I said, I'm just so stressed. I can't do this. And you're like, is anyone dying?
Yeah.
And I was like,
new benchmark.
Oh, right?
New benchmark.
Yes. But I think of that. I still think of that to this day. And I have you to credit for that. But were there times like, who said that to you?
When he came out of the coma, he literally stared off into space. Because I thought he'd come out of the coma and go, hi, Mom, I love you, right? No one prepares you for he was staring off into space and going like this for hours all day. And so what I had to do was look for every little win I could celebrate. And when you think about it in life, we so often are looking out at that thing, right? The horizon. I'm the worst at this. I'm always like, okay, what's the next goal? And what I had to do was go, he moved his pinky. He sighed. He looked at me. And so anything I could see, I'm like, he's in there.
And I love celebrating the small wins. And I think that that's something that we overlook a lot.
Yes.
I do. I know you do too.
I totally do.
It's like, we're like, yeah, no, that's great. Okay, but what about this? But I do think it's also important to acknowledge that it's a process. And I'm a kicker and screamer. Like, I'll do it kicking and screaming, but I keep going and I keep moving forward. And I celebrate the wins and I do all of that, not as much as I should. But for me, it tends to be a struggle.
So here's this cool cycle. So first thing you do is you make a big commitment. My commitment was for Grant was that he was going to be better from this, and so was I, and so were as many people as we could possibly touch than he was before. What if this was the best thing that ever happened to you? So I asked the right question. I made that commitment. He was going to be better. and I told everybody. And I always think when you make a commitment, tell everybody. And people thought I was insane. Who's the insane mom on that floor? Put her over there. Don't let her talk to anyone. Your way of going through that might be kicking and screaming. Kick and scream. However it is that you have to deal with it, do it. But every time you go through that struggle and you get those new capabilities, and now you're more confident.
I think one of the most interesting things you said was, looking at the situation to say, like, what's the best thing that could come out of this? Like, how could this be an amazing opportunity? And even if we don't see it because everything is falling apart, to really just sort of shift your thinking a bit so that you're looking at it from a different perspective, and you can start to identify maybe some positive, some good.
What's the good? Because you can have the good or you can be the bad, or,
Right.
whichever way you go. And even, people might say, hey, it's easy because you survived, but whatever was going to happen, the way my brain works is to go, what's good here? What can we take from this? What's going to be the positive here in whatever situation it is? And that's a mindset. That's a way of thinking. Because people who focus on the negative, whatever the situation is going to be, they're going to be yeah-butting all the way down to the black hole, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people talk about, in these situations where there's struggle involved, hope. People say, just have hope. You just have to have hope. Just hang on to. How do you feel about hope?
Well, I think if you don't have any hope, then you don't have a chance. But you have to back that one up. And so to me, it's going past hope to a total belief that this is absolutely 100% going to be this way. It's like what I think grants served such a purpose for so many people is they had no hope. And if you have no hope, if the situation you believe is hopeless and it never is,
Right.
There's always something that will come out of it. That's what you'll get. You're going to get what you expect. You'll always get exactly what you expect.
It's so interesting, I feel like, when we look at things like life and death, or we look at struggle, or we look at, just the fight. I mean, life is intense. It is intense. I mean, you've heard the quote, like, we're spiritual beings on a very human journey. And I believe that's true. But having something else to hold on to or tap into, I think most people find very comforting and really use that as a tool to get through whatever they're going through, prayer, meditation, whatever the case might be. Did you find that helpful, or is there something else along those lines that you think could be beneficial for people?
I've been asked this so much since this happened. Okay, well, because I think people want to pin it on like one God over there that did this, that gal did this. And when it happened, one of the things that was incredible is that all these people all over the world started leading prayer circles. And so we had like pretty much every religion covered. I was like, great, so I was getting like holy water sent, and I had some, I literally the Buddhists, the Muslims. I'm like, cool, like let's bring them all in. I'm not sure which one's going to hit, so let's just do them all. I've always believed, come on, this kid should have been dead. I've always believed there was obviously more out there than just us. There's got to be. It doesn't make any sense. What it is, I don't know, but it's definitely pretty darn powerful. And it was interesting when this whole thing happened, because it was a hit and run, a gal, and there was a small camp of people who were they were like, I can't believe you're not going after this person. And I go, I'm just really focusing on making sure that my son lives and has an amazing life. So I have this much energy, and I could direct it over here. But I know this person will be taken care of over here, so I actually don't need to worry about this over here. But there are people that wanted to get together rewards and go after it. I'm like, just let that go. Let that go. That person has their own issues at this point. I'm sure they're every day this is an issue. I don't need to worry about it.
I don't know that I'm above that. I'd like to think I am, but I don't know. I'll be really, really transparent. But at the same time, hearing you talk about focusing the energy, and you could focus it here or there, it's clear what the choice should be, right? We have these knee-jerk reaction, and we're moms, and we're women, and we're emotional, which is beautiful. But I think that if we just started to cultivate an awareness, instead of just having that knee-jerk reaction, reacting, if you will, maybe we would stop and think, okay, there's this energy, and I could divert it here or there, just as you talked about. But to do that and to make that conscious choice really starts with awareness. So maybe it's a question of how do we become more aware every day in every aspect of our lives.
You've always heard what you focus on expands. We can fix this, but what's the big picture, and where do I really need to be focusing my energy? Because it's true, whatever you focus on expands.
What tip or like what little tiny tidbit would you give someone who just wants to start cultivating that awareness so that when disaster strikes or the milk is spilled in the morning, that we can just step back and maybe have a different perspective?
So I actually think you need to surround yourself with this, which might mean you have to get new friends. Right? Because I love the quote from Jim Rohn of your income is the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. We know the same thing happens with obesity. It's not weight, it's not income, it's everything. I only hang out with abundance-minded thinkers. And it's so clear to me when I get around one who's not. You can manage all your media, especially now more than ever. Every day you should be starting with reading some positive stuff and doing intentioning. I do that every single day, even when I'm like not feeling inspired at all, like it forces you to do it. And so I think you have to manage your environment, really control your environment, and you have the ability to do that. And with all the people we spend time around, it changes the way you think. You can't help it.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
to just think differently when you're around other people who think differently.
Right. And you challenge each other.
Yes. I look at this, and to me, the definition of a true friend, there's someone who has your back, who supports you, but will not let you play small. Right?
That's
Which
a
I
good
know
one.
you will never let me do that. And so, and I look
Never.
for mentors like that too. It's very easy to surround yourself with people, go, oh, you're so good.
Right.
Come on. You want the people to go, that was really good that you did this, but I know what you're capable of.
So, JJ, the name of the show is What You're Really Hungry For. Tell me, what are you really hungry for?
So, it's interesting because having gone through this whole thing with Grant, people see me as this really strong, powerful gal, powerful woman. But I think ultimately, all of us really want to be seen for who we are. We want to be seen for the fragility, and we want to be loved, I mean, it's great to be respected and admired, but I think, too, it's being cherished and loved and adored.
Such a great answer, and you are that strong woman. I'm honored to call you a friend, and I've learned so much, even today. Like every time I'm around you, I just learned so much. So thank you for being the beautiful light that you are in the world, and thank you for being that example of how we can deal with struggle and can turn it into success in a huge way. So thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love you so much.
We'll hug it out later. This week is all about struggle. So I invite you to choose one of JJ's tips that she discussed during our show and start implementing it in your life today. What is it that maybe you are struggling with, that maybe you want to give up on? And what one thing can you start doing today to keep going so that you succeed in the end? As always, the conversation continues at cynthiapasquella.com. Head on over and leave a comment below this video telling me the one thing that you will do to end your struggle today. And while you're there, make sure you download today's free menu to track your progress. You'll find inspirational quotes from today's show and a daily checklist to keep you on track. It's located right below this video at cynthiapasquella.com. Did you like this video? If you did, please subscribe, and I would be so grateful if you would share this video with your friends. And if you want to hear more from me, including stuff I only talk about in email, then come on over to cynthiapasquella.com and sign up for my email newsletter so you can be a part of this beautiful community of women who are discovering what they're really hungry for. This episode is brought to you by the Institute of Transformational Nutrition. Discover the secrets to becoming a go-to expert in nutrition coaching while making great money on the side or even enjoying a new career at www.transformationalnutrition.com. On next week's episode of What You're Really Hungry For. I read your story maybe 5 times just because it was so compelling. Can you share the Reader's Digest version of it with us?
I guess a short version, I almost died at birth, and then I kind of went downhill from there.
That is a short version.